there, welcome to the farm. I tell you what, my body's been really feeling all this farm work I've been doing lately, and I imagine my neighbors have been feeling their farm work too. So I've invited a friend down to teach them about farmers yoga. In exchange, I'm gonna make a delicious brunch. For the ingredients, we're gonna head out to Amanda's Eggs in Tilden, Wisconsin to gather some eggs, and then it's off for some dill aquavit. Gather with us around the farm table. I'm your host, Inga Witcher.
Good morning, girls.
I'm Inga, and I love everything about farming. Midwestern farms are a bounty of good food made by good people.
I love being able to travel to search out good ingredients.
Cooking is all about what's seasonal, what's fresh. Every day can be filled with good food, good friends, and a beautiful herd of cows. Welcome to the farm. Good girl.
Around the Farm Table is funded in part by Quick Trip, big on fresh, and proud to support Wisconsin's farmers. Wisconsin Farmers Union, united to grow family agriculture. American Provenance, Heartland Credit Union, and Friends of Wisconsin Public Television.
Tracy, thank you so much for coming to the farm today.
Thanks for having me, Inga.
Well, I wanted to have you down because I have some farmers who are interested in doing some yoga, and they're a little hesitant, but I thought if I found a farmer who was also a yoga instructor, it might make them a little bit more comfortable to do it.
Great idea. I think so.
So tell me a little bit about your farm.
Our farm, my boyfriend and I have the Lazy Eye Ranch in Clayton, Wisconsin, and we have a herd of Scottish Highland cows.
Nice.
They're all grass-fed.
Oh, look, that's the breed to do it with, the
It
Highlanders.
is.
Yeah, they're beautiful cows too.
They are, and they do really well on grass, and they do really well in this climate.
So as I'm trying to explain to my neighbors the benefits of yoga to them, I'm trying to say, it'll help our bodies, we're gonna feel better, but explain it in your own words why farmers should be doing more yoga.
Well, as farmers, we're very active, as you know, and a lot of the movements that we do are repetitive and strenuous, so we can injure ourselves. We can use yoga to create a balance and bring balance back to the things that we do every day and prevent injuries.
Yeah, I know for me, when I'm picking up a hay bale or picking up that bucket of milk, I'm just doing it from one side, and it's taking its toll, like time after time, and I'm not getting any younger, and so now I feel it a lot more.
Definitely, definitely.
And that's something that yoga can do, is help balance that out?
Sure, we do all of the poses on both sides, and so that retrains the muscles and the nervous system to bring balance back into the body.
You can be any age to do yoga, right? You can do it for the entire lifespan, right?
There is no age limit on yoga. I have a little 6-year-old girl that comes to my classes, and I have a man in his 70s, so.
I love that. One of the things that I think is unique about what you do at your farm is you offer these Sunday yoga classes to the farmers and the people in the rural areas, and that is really important. I love it that you're doing that. For me, to go to a yoga class, I have to drive 45 minutes, and the classes are usually offered at those times when I'm milking cows or doing something else on the farm. And so having that person in the rural Wisconsin that can give those classes, that's just really a wonderful thing.
Thanks. It's a wonderful group of people, and we really enjoy having class together.
Tell me about some of your different farmer yogis. What kind of span do you do?
Oh boy, we have a pig farmer and a chicken farmer and a sheep farmer and an herbalist and a tattoo artist, and non-farmers. We have a machinist, ex-military. We have a businesswoman. We have anyone and everyone comes to yoga.
Well, I'm hoping to get up to your place sometime for yoga, but in the meantime, I'm going to go out and pick up some ingredients because I plan on making a delicious brunch for you guys. So why don't you explore my farm, and then I'll meet you in the hayloft for a little farmer's yoga.
Sounds great.
Well, why don't we go pick up the ingredients for our strata and our beet cocktail. I've made it up to Deer Lake Gardens in St. Croix Falls, Wisconsin. I'm here in the dill fields to meet with Mike and find out how he turns this dill into some amazing aquavit. Let's go say hi. Hey, Mike.
Hello, Inga.
Nice to see you.
Great to see you. Thanks for coming out to the farm.
Yeah, you're just harvesting some dill for the aquavit today?
We are. We came up to do a little inspection and take a plant or two home just to see how it looks at home.
Good. good. Well, my family has been drinking aquavit for generations and generations. It's one of my favorite spirits, but a lot of people aren't as aware maybe of aquavit and what it is. Explain a little bit about what aquavit is, please.
Sure, it's the number one question I get when I do events. People will come up and they'll just be like, what is aquavit?
Yeah.
And my generic answer is, from the research I've done, is that it's the water of life. Aquavit means the water of life. Eau de vie in France means the water of life. Whiskey in Celtic is slang for the water of life. And it goes back to those Middle Ages when water out of streams and rivers was not necessarily drinkable. You would have to ferment it into a beer or a wine, or distill it into a spirit or at least distilled water in order to make it drinkable.
The good old days, as I call it.
The good old days, yeah, roughing it. They would use what they had available around them, the great grains of Scotland and Ireland, the great fruits of France. And in Scandinavia, they like to forage, and so they would forage for different plants and roots and berries and bog flowers, and they would introduce those flavors into their high spirits to add some complexity, some interest to their high spirits.
Yeah, aquavit is a very herbal or floral. It's so different than anything else I've ever tasted.
Yeah, they like their savory flavors over in Scandinavia. Common flavors are caraway, dill, coriander, angelica, and on and on and on. Every valley would have its own version of aquavit, and there are hundreds of different recipes over in the old country. Somehow it disconnected, though, when people immigrated to America. They either just kept it in their own family and didn't bother getting it out into the mainstream bars and restaurants, or just that the conditions weren't favorable for introducing aquavit into the drinking public of America. And so that's what generated the idea of coming into a small distillery in our community, 45th Parallel, and seeing if we could make our own version of aquavit.
Awesome. And community really is important to you because you have a whole team of local people helping you. You've got farmers growing the dill for you. You're using a local distillery. I love these stories of collaboration between farmers and distillers and folks who want to bring something new to the market.
Certainly. I couldn't do this without them. I've never felt more a part of the community as I have since I started this venture. I had done office jobs, and when you're in the office, you pretty much have a limited reach in your community, unless you do volunteer stuff or something outside of the office. But when you do a venture like this, you definitely have to touch the rest of the community, and it's all segments of the community. People who do the designs for your labels, the people who print your labels, the 45th Parallel who does the distilling for us. What I really enjoy most about the business is getting out on the farm, seeing the farmers, talking to the farmers.
How important is it to get that local dill or those local ingredients?
Well, we felt it was critical. When we were first doing our test batches, it took us over a year to get it right. And the first test batches we were doing in 2011 were done in the summer, and they were small scale, and so we would just get dill from the local co-op and do those small batches that way. And we got the recipe where we wanted it, and we felt kind of comfortable on a small scale. And so then when we ramped up, it was in December. We went to the co-op, made the arrangements to bring in dill, but of course the growing season was done here, and so we had to get wherever they would get the product from, and that tended to be like Southern California or Mexico even. And so we brought the dill in. It took a couple days for it to be shipped in, and we put it into our infusion, and we started doing the distillation a week later. And when we did the distillation, the room smelled amazing. And when we blended it down, after it came off the still, it smelled great. And we thought, wow, I think we got it. And then when we tasted it, it didn't taste like dill. We went back to the drawing board and we tried to figure out, well, what was missing there. And the conclusion that I reached was that we needed to get a local plant, locally harvested, take it straight from the field right to the infusion tank as quickly as possible, so that those essential oils that provide the flavor would be available, and not be drifted away in some truck somewhere.
Sure. Yeah, that's why I'm always encouraging people to eat locally and seasonally, because the flavor it's completely different than having it shipped in from across the country. When you're doing that, it really does lose the flavor. So when you're eating that season or from that farm, it's a better experience, I think.
Exactly. Fresh fish instead of one that's been sitting in the freezer for a week or a month or whatever.
Right. Yeah. Aquavit is it seems like it's becoming more and more popular. Maybe I just pay attention to it so much, but it seems like you'll go to a farm-to-table restaurant and there's a Aquavit cocktail on the menu, or you open up a food magazine and there's a story about Aquavit. I'm loving this because it really is one of my favorite spirits.
I'm the same way.
Yeah.
I enjoyed the spirit, and when I came back from Scandinavia and looked for dill aquavit, I couldn't find it.
Yeah.
And that's what eventually led to, with small distilling now being available, to making our own. Once it's available and you introduce it to a restaurant of that quality, or a bartender who wants to do something
exciting about it. Yeah.
They will find amazing ways to introduce it into a cocktail or into a dinner.
So what part of the dill do you use? Are you just using the heads, or what?
Well, we use it all.
Really?
We'll take it right down near the root with our trusty high-tech tool, and
I guess it makes sense. There's flavor in the whole thing.
Exactly, and why waste it?
Why waste it? Yeah.
And so we'll just take it down near the ground, we'll fold it up, just make it more convenient, and we'll store it in these cloth bags.
That's just like a giant tea bag.
Exactly, and we'll take it to the distillery that same day that we do the harvest, and we'll get it right into the infusion so we can lock in as much of that essential oil, that essential flavor as possible.
Oh, that's exciting. Well, I'm excited to introduce my friends to an Aquavit today with a little beet Aquavit cocktail, and so I'm going to get a bottle on the way home. But thank you for showing me the fields, and hopefully next year I can come back and help you harvest.
Oh, please. It was fun. Thanks so much
you.
for coming out to the farm.
Hello, Amanda.
Hi, Inga.
It's nice to meet you. I've been seeing your eggs in the store for quite a while now, and I wanted to stop in and just see a little bit about your operation here. One thing I was reading on your website is you started with a few chickens, and now you've really grown your business. Can you tell me a little bit about how you got started and why you wanted to do this?
Yes, well, when I was a young girl, my grandma Ellen, she had always had a new batch of chickens around every year. And so I have a love for chickens. And when I got started in 2009 with 36 hens, I was the mom of 2 and now the mom of 4. But I wanted something that I could do and still be here for my kids and raise my kids, and also something that they could help with.
That's wonderful. I think helping your parents on the farm is something that I grew up doing, and I think it's important to pass it on to your kids and give them that experience. Just to allow them to have that experience of learning how to work and being a part of the farm. Is that something that's important to you too?
Yes, yes, very much so. It's great. It teaches my kids responsibility, and even though it's hard to get them out here sometimes, but also teaching them where their food comes from and how to produce good food, and having those themes of the stewardship of the land and respect for the animals.
I love that.
That's all really important for me to teach my children.
I know that pasturing is a huge part of what you do here. Tell me a little bit about why you want to pasture your chickens and how you do that.
Okay, well, pasturing is important because it gives the eggs richer flavor, darker yolks, and better nutrition, and also it's healthier for the hens. And it also eliminates some labor of cleaning pens.
That was my least favorite job as a kid.
Yes, only during the spring and summer months. Maybe if the weather was nicer year-round, we'd have to clean pens at all. But
nice.
But yeah, it's healthier. It keeps the hens healthier too.
Isn't it neat too to see how much the chickens they can really eat grass? I have this little coop, not as big as yours, that I just pull around with my 5 little chickens, and you can just see them mowing the lawn. It's just amazing to just see that grass is a really part of their diet when they're outside, and of course all the bugs and everything too.
Yes, well, it's important to understand that chickens are really omnivores. Mm-hmm. So plants, grains, and bugs are all really good things for them to eat in their diet.
When you think about purchasing the chickens, what were you thinking about as far as breed? What was important to you?
Well, what was important is a chicken who would lay a lot of eggs a year, as the income from them is based on selling eggs. So A brown or red hybrid layer such as this will lay an average of 300 days a year compared to some heritage breeds that are only 150 to 170 days a year.
Oh, wow. That's a lot of
So
eggs.
almost twice as many eggs out of a brown hybrid hen.
And you also do meat birds too.
Yes, I do about 2,000 jumbo broiler crosses each year. I have a couple restaurants that I supply, and also individuals that I supply poultry to.
It's exciting to see the local food movement, especially in our area, growing with these different restaurants and more co-ops and things, so that folks like us have that outlet to be able to sell to people who are interested in getting good, healthy foods.
Yes, the local food market has really grown in the last 5 to 7 years and has given me the opportunity to have a market to do this.
And so where do you sell it? Just at co-ops?
Local meat shops. I have a couple of local small grocery stores, local food co-ops, and also several restaurants.
Oh, nice. And can I come here and pick them up if I'm in the area?
Yes, I also sell eggs out of the driveway. I have a self-serve system set up.
I love that.
Where you can take as many eggs as you need and leave payment in the coffee can on top of the fridge. That's in the coop.
Perfect. Well, I'm going to go put a payment in and pick up a dozen eggs for my brunch that I'm doing today.
Okay, sounds great.
I'll let you get back to work. Now, why don't you guys join me in the kitchen and we'll cook up a delicious brunch. A few weeks ago, I got invited to the Muscadet Morel Mushroom Festival down in Muscadet, Wisconsin. It was a great festival. It was fun to see all the people and to taste all the wonderful mushrooms. But my highlight was I got invited to a little luncheon with several of the ladies who put together this event. And the food was amazing. I had rhubarb cocktails, one of the best rhubarb desserts I've ever had in my life. And the main star of the brunch was a strata that Vicki from Meister Cheese had made. And she used a lot of her cheese from their creamery and some morels. It was delicious. So I want to try to recreate that here today for my yoga guests. The first thing I did is I started browning some pork. It's just some sausage, and this is right from our farm here. And now to this, I'm going to add some leeks. So I think probably 2 leeks is enough. Just the white parts only, and then you can discard the leaves here and add those right to the sausage in the pan. All right, give those leeks a nice stir around, and then we're gonna add some mushrooms. Unfortunately, I don't have morel mushrooms, so I'm gonna use a cremini. And I'm gonna take the stems off here, and then just give them a slice. And that looks like enough mushrooms. And those are gonna go right in with the leeks and the sausage. And give those mushrooms a nice stir and let them cook down for a little while. Now I'm going to season this meat mixture with a little bit of salt and pepper. Get that going on in there. A little salt. And some chili flakes because I like a little bit of heat. Yum. A lot of chili flakes actually. And then some fennel seed. I thought the fennel would go good with the pork, so that's why I'm adding it, and I had it available. You can season however you wish. I love living on a farm because I love knowing that I've got pork in the freezer, I've got some beef down in the freezer. I'm sad that I don't have chickens laying eggs anymore, but hopefully they'll start laying soon. It's just nice. It's nice to be able to feed myself and my husband and guests that we have over right here from the farm. It's very satisfying for me. But I love also that I live in a great state like Wisconsin, where if I'm not growing it, I know someone nearby is, and they're growing it the best ways that they can. When you add your spices, you can let it cook for another 2-3 minutes or so, and that allows the flavors to come out of the spices and marry with the other ingredients. Now, like I said, a strata is basically just bread, cheese, and eggs with a little something else mixed in. And what I did with this bread is just about a loaf of bread, like a country loaf of bread, and I tore it up last night and left it out just on the counter so it can dry out. Because once that bread is dried out, then it can soak up all the flavors of the pork mixture and the eggs and the milk and really get in there to make a lovely little breakfast casserole. So you want to put 4 cups of dried out bread. And you can always just toast your bread in the oven for a little bit if you need to, if you want to do it that day. But I like that process of drying it out overnight. So let's see, I'm gonna eyeball about 4 cups here. And I have a buttered dish that's already been buttered. And I'm gonna just add a few more to cover the bottom of my dish. And now I'm gonna do 2 cups of milk. This is my great-grandfather's milk bottles. He had a milk hauling company back in the old days. And I'm glad that I can carry on the dairy tradition in our family. So, and it's a 1/2 cup of eggs, which is about 8 eggs. And you can eyeball it here. It's lovely being able to live in Wisconsin where there's someone nearby growing quality eggs. Now you can just whip those eggs right into the milk. I probably should have whipped the eggs separately. Now that I think about it, it probably would have been easier than add them to the milk, but who doesn't like a little bit of a challenge in the kitchen, right? Now I'm just gonna season the eggs with a little salt and pepper. Mix that right on in. And then I love dill and eggs. I think they're a nice little friendship together and they taste lovely. So I'm just gonna chop up, I don't know, 2 tablespoons of dill, fresh dill. I like to use fresh herbs as much as possible. All right, and right into the eggs they go. Give those a swirl, and now we're ready to assemble everything. So now I've got my pan with all the dried breadcrumbs on the bottom, and let's see how much filling I'm gonna be able to fit in here. I hope that I grabbed a big enough casserole dish. We're gonna find out. Just spoon your mixture right over your bread. Make sure to spread your mixture out evenly so that it goes all throughout the casserole. The next step is adding the cheese. I chose an Emmentaler style cheese, a Swiss cheese. I like the flavor of that with the mushrooms and also the pork. But you could use an aged cheddar would be nice also, or a mixture of cheese, say some Parmesan and some cheddar, or even mozzarella would be fantastic. I love these kind of recipes where you get to use your imagination and whatever you'll have on hand. That's my favorite way to cook. And now just pour your egg mixture right over the top. And this is gonna make it like nice custardy texture. And that, folks, is how you make a strata. I'm gonna pop this in the oven, get cleaned up, and then we'll make a little cocktail for the yogis. I wanted to keep these guys limber after their yoga exercise today with a little cocktail, but don't worry, it has a little bit of health benefits to it with some beets. I hear beets good for the liver, so maybe it'll counteract the aquavit that we're gonna put in here. But this is a nice Scandinavian cocktail, so let's get started with 3/4 cup of beet juice, and I just put some beets through my juicer. Look at that beautiful color. I'm gonna eyeball this. The next ingredient is ginger beer. 3/4 cup goes right in there. And then a few little tablespoons of simple syrup. And simple syrup is easy to make. It's just about a cup of water, start that to boil, and then add in about 1/4 to 1/2 cup of sugar and just dissolve the sugar, and then you've got simple syrup. To this now, I'm gonna add a few pinches of celery salt. And then I'm gonna add a few squeezes of lemon juice. Hopefully I got all the seeds out. Lemon is always a nice flavor enhancer and balancer. Adds a little bit of acidity to brighten things up. And now the final and most important ingredient is the dill aquavit that we picked up. I love it that we can not only eat locally, but also drink locally. And aquavit has been a family favorite of mine for generations. And now I'm able to get it right here in the Midwest, which I just love. And I love that the ingredients are coming from the Midwest, and it's a lovely story. And we're gonna eyeball this too. It's I don't know, about 1.5 cups. We might give them a little bit more. That's good. That was probably way more than 1.5 cups, but that's okay. Now that it's all mixed up, I'm gonna give it a little bit of a little taste, make sure the seasonings are correct, and also I've never had this cocktail before, so I really wanna know what it tastes like. I love the color. Look at that, it's gorgeous. Okay, give it a taste here. I think we're good to go. Let me pack all this stuff up and let's go refresh our farming yoga friends with a delightful brunch.
Step your left foot forward, right foot back. Reach your arms out to the sides and turn your shoulders and hips square to the side. Look out over that left hand.
All right, brunch is ready.
Great.
Veggie strata with spring greens, tasty and a little bit healthy. A perfect tipple after your downward dog. Beet and dill aquavit cocktail. A simple yoga ending, local fresh strawberries.
Well, I hope this has inspired you to do a little yoga in the barn, and I hope you'll gather with us next time.
Around the farm table.
I'm your host, Inga Witcher. Cheers.
Around the Farm Table is funded in part by Quick Trip, big on fresh, and proud to support Wisconsin's farmers. Wisconsin Farmers Union, united to grow family agriculture. American Provenance, Heartland Credit Union, and Friends of Wisconsin Public Television.